Israel is occupied by too many Jews and not enough Israelites. If you don't know what I mean, then I want you to watch this video.
Various cultures many cultures have purported to be the inheritors genetically, culturally, historically of those 10 lost tribes. But none of them have really been demonstrated as accurate, although there is some fascinating new material coming out with DNA analysis, looking at various populations to try to determine how likely it is that they are in fact Jewish. And especially in Africa, there have been several populations that have been identified as having a very high statistical relationship to contemporary Jews.
But thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. With that in mind, we cannot assume a person is a Jew just because they say they are. We need to prove it. And to do that, we need to use the Bible with DNA to find the truth. For example, the Bible tells us the 12 tribes of Israel shared a single forefather called Jacob, or Jacob, renamed Israel. The Bible also tells us that the children of Israel had 4 emas, or 4 mothers: Zilpah, Leah, Rachel, and Bilhah. In other words, the 12 tribes of Israel was made up of 1 father and 4 mothers. With that in mind, we can use DNA to see if the Negro has 1 forefather and 4 mothers. Now, DNA does indeed reveal that the Negro does share a single DNA forefather called E1B1A by geneticists. DNA also reveals that the so-called Negro shares 4 DNA mothers, referred to as L3, L2, L1, and L0 as well. Here we see the Negro's DNA matches the Bible perfectly. The Ashkenazi Jews, on the other hand, do not share a single forefather, nor do they share 4 DNA mothers. This further proves that the Negro are the true Jews. And yes,
How you doing? My name is Antonio. My page is Unapologetically Black. I ask that you like and subscribe to the page. It's on ADOS on YouTube. What I want to talk to you, sorry my light not working in my truck, but what I really want to talk to you about is the fact that Israel is at war. Understand that the people who are in Israel are occupiers. Jewish Zionist converts are oppressing actual Israelites.
The establishment of an independent Jewish state, ideally in Palestine, the first wave of European Jews start to immigrate. By the end of World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapses and Palestine is under British rule. It's 1917. Britain declares its support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The number of Jewish settlers grow, fueling tensions between the Arabs and the Jews. The violence between the two sides caused Britain to bow out and let the UN take over. The UN approves of a plan to split Palestine into 2 states, Jewish Israel, Arab Palestine. The city of Jerusalem, which is sacred to Muslims, Christians, and Jews, is now a UN-controlled international zone. Jews accept the UN partition plan and declare independence as the State of Israel. But
you have the astonishing.
Well, we have to understand that it is unable to differentiate the treatment of the actual black Jews in Israel than it is to treat the black Jews than the treatment that the black Jews in America receive. They are the exact same treatment. People who claim to have come from a Holocaust in Europe has went into Israel and created a same conditions for the Palestinians. This tells me that these Europeans have no spiritual guidance. The same thing that Hitler did to them, which was create ghettos, they have turned around and did to Palestine, to the Palestinians, as well as these Israelites. These Jews has also have denied these actual Israelites who have DNA connections true citizenship in Israel. The construction of racism that applies in America, Zionist Jews have applied in Israel.
The Israeli regime of military occupation, settler colonialism, and apartheid was deeply allied with the apartheid regime in South Africa. The two regimes of apartheid were born in the same year.
שוטר רוצח חייב להיות בפנים! שוטר אלים, תוריד את המדים! למה?
Solomon Teka, a 19-year-old Ethiopian Israeli, was shot and killed by a police officer last summer. In March, his family and supporters showed up at the officer's trial. The officer said the shooting was an accident after he fired at the ground. He faces a maximum of 3 years in prison.
This morning, day 2 set to begin in the criminal trial for former police officer Kim Potter, who says she mistook her handgun for her taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Dante Wright during a traffic stop near Minneapolis in April.
Speak the strongest to people that resonate with them the most.
אני זה בעיה, אני זה המיעוט, אני זה הסיכון, זה הצבע הלבוש. אני זה תעלומה, אז תביאו את הבילוש. אני זה העילה, לא צריך שתצף חיפוש. תצלם בפלאפון, תעלה לפייסבוק.
The music video was based on a real-life act of police brutality. In 2015, 2 police officers were involved in the beating of an Ethiopian Israeli soldier. Neither officer was charged. The visuals are pretty strong.
Yeah. I didn't do anything. Whoa, hold on. What's going? Hold on. Watch it. Air Force and deployed.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car now!
The
car now!
Sir, just get out of the car. I'm trying to breathe.
Get out of the car now!
That's up. That's really up.
Get out of the car and get on the ground now. You're going to get it again.
I don't even want to reach my seatbelt. Can you?
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
Can you please?
Get out of the car now!
It's been the most difficult to implement.
In my view, the policing reforms it's most difficult.
Why is that?
Because first they are big organization.
Can you differentiate the struggle for Israeli and African Jews, right, from the struggle of African Americans? It appears to be exactly the same, if you ask me. Same procedure, same process. How they want to act as if the construct of racism has changed, as if the common denominator and basis for discrimination has always been our black skin first and foremost. So when faced with deciding whether to roll with your religious and spiritual people, right, who you supposed to share a bloodline with, you side with racism. Not to mention the fact that these so-called Jews have also armed South Africa apartheid to also oppress other blacks. So from people who claim they have come from such a tragedy as a Holocaust, they do not have the humanity for other nations of people to consider themselves spiritual people.
Sight of a white South African prime minister who'd been interned as a Nazi sympathizer, visiting Yad Vashem, the Holocaust memorial. That's the point at which you can see that this relationship has become close enough that history is forgotten.
UN partition plan and declare independence as the State of Israel. But neighboring Arab countries object to the land takeover. This marks the beginning of the First Arab-Israeli War. Israel is victorious and makes a grab for the land intended for the Palestinian state under the UN. The land gets divided into 3 parts. Jordan occupies the West Bank and East Jerusalem, Egypt occupies Gaza, and the state of Israel takes 78% of historic Palestine, including West Jerusalem. 700,000 Palestinians become refugees as a result.
President of Israel about that letter and about that relationship, and he just dismissed it. Israel's position, like that of the US and the UK, is to then say, well, of course, we were on the side of the ANC and Mandela and against apartheid all along. And there's a quick rewriting of history. You know, the Palestinian cause was the ANC's cause. So clearly that relationship between Israel and the post-apartheid government was never going to be as intimate.
It's 1967. The Six-Day War breaks out between Israel and neighboring Arab countries. And by the end of it, the map looks something like this. Palestine is now fully occupied by Israel.
Richard Boyd Barrett, to you first. What did you hope to achieve with the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador?
We think that it is now long past time that Israel is treated in the same way as apartheid South Africa was treated, that its entire regime and treatment of the Palestinians is tantamount to apartheid, to orchestrated, institutionalized racism, particularly with laws like the Israeli law of return.
You're witnessing people who speak about a Holocaust or mass disaster, that travesty that they claiming happened to their people, at the same time go into Israel and commit those atrocities against other groups of people. This leads me to believe that you have no spiritual link to this land. This was a land grab. This was an ethnic group of people in Europe who lost their land and decided to take on Black people identity and use spirituality as a means to claim our land. Words, deeds, and actions determine who a man is. Go by their words, deeds, and actions. When surrounded by other Black people, what did they do? They connected to their whiteness. They connected and formed an alliance with the South African apartheid government that has already said that Black people are less than human and was practicing eugenics. The same thing they accused her of doing. It was not about race, it was about ethnicity when Hitler was doing it in Europe. It is about race when you see these Zionist Jews discriminating against African Jews.
Late last year, Israel's top religious authority, the Chief Rabbinic Council, formally recognized the community's Jewishness.
According to the Washington Post database called Fatal Force, 509 people have been shot and killed by the police in the U.S. so far just this year. 24% of those were Black people. And that's despite the fact that the Black population only makes up 13% of the total population of the United States.
How dare this white privileged man have the audacity to talk to an African-American sister about being marginalized, when Black skins all around this world have been continuously marginalized no matter where you go. You talking about Zionist Jews who have no DNA connection to Israel are treating Africans who have a DNA connection to Israel as second-class citizens in their own homeland.
Up until the early 1900s, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, a religiously diverse land where Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived alongside each other.
Tonight, millions are on alert for severe weather as a massive wildfire explodes in sites in North Carolina.